Okay, good evening. We're up to Yud Beis Amid Beis, about the 20 lines or so from the bottom of the two dots. And I was speaking about Chalukah. Amar Rav Huna, Reid Rav Yeshua. Says Rav Huna in the son of Yeshua, Pshita Chelik Bechar Bechelik Pashut Yahavinan Lei. Rashi tells us, going up a bit, going up like a quarter way down the page. Shnei chalakim shebachar noitel. We know bechar gets pishnayim. So the two portions that he takes, echa mishum bechayra, v'ech mishum pshitus. One else the older son and one else the regular son. Yavinan le echad mitzara zu etzel zu. We give him one mitzvah, one boundary, one to the other. Shneim cholkum hein, v'hari hein kechelik echad. So in other words, let's say you have two brothers and three fields, and fields 1, 2, and 3. You're going to give the bechar either 1 or 2 or 3. They should be next to each other. They should be next to each other, right? That's pashut. That's pashut. That again, and Rashi tells you why. Why is that? Because right, is shneim chelkai hein. They both is chelik. V'arehin kechelik echad, and we'll view it as one chelik. We won't view it as what. In other words, he gets pishnayim. We won't view it as fields 1 and 2. We'll view it as 1A and 1B. We'll view it as one field. We'll view it as one field. Now we know the halacha that if a yavam, that if a person dies and has no children, and his brother goes ahead and he is miyabim his almana, his yavama. So the Torah tells us the following. In Devarim Chav Hey, never have so few psukim cause so much Gemara. Okay, it says, "Ki yeshu achim yachdav." Now, guys, listen to the lashon. Two brothers are living together. Umeisei echad mehem. One of them dies. Uvein ein loy, and he has no son, no children. Leisia eishes hameisa chutz l'ishzar. Wife should not go to a stranger. Yavama yava aleha. Hayavam, her brother-in-law, should live with her. Ulakachaloi leisha v'yibma. He'll take her as a wife and live with her. She's kind of with Bia. V'hoya ha'bechara sheteleid, the bechar that is born, yokam Hashem achiv hames. So if you look at the word bechar in the pasuk, right, it's clearly going on the child born from the union of the yavam and the yavama. Good. However, if you might remember, right, I didn't remember, so you may not remember, but in Yavamas Chav Daled, this is one of the psukim that is yotzim midei pshutai. That bechar asheteled, it's not bechar is not the child born, it's the bechar, the oldest of the brothers does yibum. In other words, from the literal part of the pasuk, it's going the child born. But this is yotzim midei pshutai because it's going on what? It's going on the yavam himself. That in the pecking order of people who perform yibum, it's the oldest brother. Okay, so it's good to keep in mind. Now, so we know it's pashut that by bechar that we're going to go ahead and give him 2 fields because it's one chelik. Now here's the shaila. Here's the shaila. Yavam mai. What's the din of a yavam? Yavam mai. What's the din of a yavam? Meaning, he's going to get 2 portions also. He's going to get his portion and the portion of his dead brother that he married. Good. Amar Abaye, he. Says Abaye, he, it's the exact same din. Says Abaye, it's the exact same din. My timer, Bechar Kay Rachmana. The Torah calls him what? A Bechar. And as we just explained, the words of the pasuk B'hoya Bechar is going on what? On him. Rabbi says, Omakra, B'hoya HaBechar. What does that mean? Kib Bechar? Hayavais the Kib Bechar. His avaya is like a bechar. His status is like a bechar. Vein chilukas like a bechar. But his chelik is not what? His chelik is not like a bechar. So according to Rava, you will not get necessarily 2 fields side by side. You will not get 2 fields side by side. Hahu dezovin ara amitzra de beinashya. Someone bought a field on the meitzer of his father. So his father has property, and in the lifetime of his father, he buys property, and when his father passes on, so he wants the field that's next to his field. So in other words, he's dividing up with the brothers. And he wants the field that's next to his field. Kika Polgi, when the brothers are going ahead and dividing up the inheritance, Amalei, Pliguli Amitzroi, go ahead and when we divide up, give to me on my Maitzer. Where I am, on my boundary, so I should have what? I should have two together. So Amar Rabba, Kigoin Zeh, Koifin al Midas Sedaim. Kigoin Zeh, Koifin al Midas Sedaim. Now, Koifin al Midas Sedaim means that Sedaim were known as particularly cruel people. So when you speak about Koifin al Midas Sedaim means Zenena v'zelei chasa. Zenena, you're having anah, zelei chasa. In other words, you're getting your property. Be nice to me, and let me have the property next door to this one. Just for, I don't have a kasha, but it seems that this doesn't work through the din of the bar mitzvah. When we spoke about din of bar mitzvah, he gets first dibs. We had a bar mitzvah. He can stop the right over here. It doesn't seem to work. The din of bar mitzvah. You have to see why in the Mishnayim why that is exactly. I wasn't exactly sure. I looked it over. wasn't exactly sure. I saw a Rash, but I wasn't exactly sure what he was talking about. I have to spend time on it. But it doesn't seem to be working through the din of bar mitzvah, right? Okay. So again, no, b'chor it's pishnayim. It's with you. In other words, if the b'chor you're dividing up $300, you don't view it as $200. You view it as his chelik. We view that he gets it. No, not the bar mitzvah. No. That's again. That was not the case of the case of the b'chor was. You're dividing it up to 3 fields. You're giving him that field. Those two together. That's not a bar mitzvah because he didn't own it. Avram, he didn't own it from beforehand. But over here, in other words, the Gemara doesn't introduce. It's a din of bar mitzvah. This guy has a field. I guess you have to say the chalukah. The chalukah it doesn't work through the din of mechira. Ayorshim lekucha saying or Yorshim. In other words, Ken Zayin the whole din of bar mitzvah. If a guy's buying the field, he has first dibs. But if it works out snachla, maybe not. Because again, you have to answer. It's saying kaifel misas sedaim. We just did the bar mitzvah. It was an interesting sugya, shmaka sugya. We did it right. So, but it's not working out as bar mitzvah now. It's working through this guideline kaifel misas sedaim. In other words, it's no sweat off your back. Let him have a field next to his field, right? Kaifel misas sedaim. So we'll go ahead and we saw this in the Pnei Yeshua in the sugya of Zen and Vizelei Chaser and Baba Kama. My Rabbi has a whole shtickle against the Pnei Yeshua. 3 weeks of yelling at him. Anyway, so never forget that. We were all getting nervous. Like Rosh Shiva wasn't spoiled. He said, "No, it's Tyra. Mechemes Tyra." Anyway, so it's Geshmak. So I'll make the Sedaim. So in other words, he had a field beforehand. The father dies. So let me have the field that's next to my field. Maskav le Rabbi Yosef says Rabbi Yosef, Amrul Imile Achi. Let the brothers say. Okay, give us a little extra bucks. In other words, it seems by Marion's fields were very, very priceless. They were very expensive fields. So good, you want this field that's next to your field, but this field is considered to us like by Marion. In other words, so if you want it, you can pay for it. But again, as chalukah, just getting it out right now, getting it out right now, because again, they can kind of that this field is chashul like by Marion, and therefore we're losing something. Guys, once you're chaser, no longer do we say kaifin al midas sedaim. Guys, you with me? Once you say chasa, once it is something to be lost, there's no longer kaifin al midas sedaim. Sedaim means they were cruel for the price of being cruel. They weren't no sweat off their back. They were just angry. Cruel. Once you go over here and say that, oh, this field is so important to me and dear to me, like what? Like by Marion, then I'm chasa something. Then no longer. So Rabbi Yosef saying you don't have to give it to him. You don't have to give it to him. Because we'd say, Malina Lam Kinis American. The Hilchasa and the halacha is Rabbi Yosef. Believe it or not, the halacha is like Rabbi Yosef. We don't say Kavin Hamis Sedai. Trey Arasa. No, we're gonna have a few cases. Trey Arasa, a Trey Nagri. You have 2 fields, and each field has their own canal. In other words, the canal or water source, and each field had their own canal. So, and in this case, what I guess you have a field, what that is next to it. In this field, you have a case what you have two brothers that the father left them 2 fields, and they have irrigation canals running to, and one of them has a field on that side. One of them has a field on that side, and they want to divide it up. So he makes the request, let me have the one that's next to my field. So Amarabba, Kigoin Zeh, Kaifal Midas Sedaim. We'll say, well, again, no sweat. If you're back, you're getting the field. Maskell Rabbi Yosef, right? Yes, on Rabbah, the second brother can claim Zimnim the high Madvil, the high loy Madvil. In other words, this irrigation is not equal. Sometimes they could say maybe this field's going to dry out, maybe this one will dry out, maybe the one that's next to you will go ahead and be flourishing. They'll have a water source coming, and mine will dry out. So in other words, it's a taina, it's a chasser. I'll be chasser because my irrigation canal won't work, and yours will. So therefore, that's a taina, and once that's a taina of chasser, no longer do we say what Kaifin al midas sedaim. The hilchos of Rabbi Yosef, and therefore the halacha is in conjunction with Rabbi Yosef. Okay, now tarti achad nagra. You have two fields, and there's a river, and that river is going into one canal, and one of the fields is saimich tuat to one of the, and now he wants to get that again. So in this case, guys, got two fields, one canal. One of the fields is next to the brother, one of the brothers, and he wants that field. Good. So Rabbi Yosef over here is that Kavel Midas Sedaim. Rabbi Yosef, in the two previous cases, had highness. Either it's like the Nechse Admarian or this it might run out to the canal. Over here, he's Maida that all things being equal, two fields and one canal. Let the brother with the field that juxtaposes the other person's field, the father's field, he should get that field. Maskevla Abaya asks, Matzi Omar Beina the Afish Arise. He goes, Beina Afish Arise. I want you to go ahead, what, and have an extra aris. In other words, the following. Let's say, guys, he has fields 1 and 3, and this brother's going to own 2. So 2 is next to 1 and 2 is next to 3, but 1 and 3 obviously are not next to each other. So Abai says the following: this son, he wants 1 and 2, or he wants 2 and 3, whichever. Let's his field is 1, he wants 2. Good. He wants to say the following: if you're going ahead and take 1, if you're going to take 1 and 2, one field, your oris will be in that field. But if you take 1 and 3, number 2 is going to be watched because the oris, you're going to need aritzim for 2 separate fields, and the male is going to be watched. So in other words, I'm chassa by giving you number 2 and not retaining it for myself. I'm chassa because now what? Because you have to add what? And I will gain by you adding an oris. Rashi says, look at Rashi. Nichale, the last Rashi on the page. Nichale lafushe arise. It's good for me that you add on arisim. Toivli sheyilechosh te sadais. It's good to me that you should have 2 fields. Achas mikan number 1. The achas mikan number 3. The achas li beemsa, and I will have 2 in the middle. Kidei shetarba l'cha arisin, in order that you'd have to hire more sharecroppers. Okay, so this is a bias taina. Over here, what's the din? The hilchas of Rabbi Yosef. Over here, the halach of Rabbi Yosef that kaifin al midas sedaim, because afushe lav milsehi. That's not considered a chutzer. It's not considered a chasser. You're not chasser anything by forcing another person to have more arisim. You're not chasser anything. Where it's direct, let's say the field is in quality of the field. Where it's in case that what the irrigation dish, but that you don't have to. I'm saving you. I want you to hire more workers. That's not considered chasser. In this case, we would be kaifin now midas sedai. Okay, final case. The final case. Chad gisa nagra, the chad gisa nahara. So let's view a square, fellas. On the northern axis, going across the top, you have a river, and on the eastern axis, going down the right, you have a ditch. Now, obviously, a water source is a much better source of water for a ditch. A ditch just brings from the source. So, if you're going to give a person the field, let's say going horizontally, and he gets the whole northern horizontal, he gains the most, right? He gains the most. If you give it this way, then he gets half of that, but he doesn't have that. So what you do is the following: you look at the picture, guys. You're going to divide it up. That's Reuven and Shimon in the middle. Rashi's picture. You're going to divide up like this. Reuven and Shimon both get a piece of action of you have to turn your Gemara over to get north south. Rashi has east going across the top. But either way, you can see that Reuven and Shimon are both going to get a piece of action on both sides. That's what you do. And one will be closer to the Nagra, one will be closer to the river. that again on the Dorim and on the Marav Zayt, each one Shimon will be close on that side, and Reuven will be closer on that side. Okay, so that's what it says. Chad Gisa v'Naga v'Chad Gisa Nara Palgan leBekarn Zul. You go ahead, go in, and you divide it up. What they do is the 4 quadrants, and then each quadrant you divide like a pizza pie. You divide each quadrant by itself. Okay, that's the case there. Okay, so that easy enough. I mean, I can read Rashi, but I think it's self understandable. Okay, the Mishnah said we're dividing up. We divide up ginas, guys. We divide up chatzeris. Yesh bachluka emachaluka. We said loyas a trakan, loyas hamaroin, loyas a shoyvef, loyas a talus, loyas a berchas, loyas beis abad, loyas beis shlachin. Right. Actually, but kadei lezeh, kadei lezeh. Need it for each one. Until there's, in other words, you can't force a chalukah till each one will have a part. Za'akal, kol sheyachalek u'shmaya love, chol kan love. Okay, this sugya is a sugya. It's called the sugya of good, or good, good, or good. You cut. I set a price and you pay it, or I'll pay you. In other words, can you force a dissolving of a shutfis? So let's say I have a shutfis with Chaim Lax, and Chaim Lax is a very nice fellow and everything, but he tends to go away on vacation very often, and as he's even sleeping now, he's getting ready for his trip, and as I talk, he's going anyway. Okay, I got to pick somebody else. Okay, me and Doc. Yeah, well, okay, me and Doc. Yeah.
Really dividing man.
What? Stop. Anyway, so we have me and Doc, and we have this field. We have something we want to divide up. We don't want to divide up. I want to divide and he doesn't. Can I compel him to divide? Can I force the issue? Again, it's a machlokes. Good. Can I force the issue? It's a machlokes. What's the machlokes? What is the terminology that we need for tonight's daf? Good or good? Doc, listen. You don't want to divide. I do, but guess what? We're going to divide up. We're going to divide up a water fountain. We're going to divide up a field. Okay. No chaluka. I'm going to offer you $1,000. Here's the deal. Either you pay me $1,000 or I'll pay you $1,000, and it'll be yours. We're not dividing it up. You'll get the whole field. In other words, in a place where if you agree upon a chalukah, great, you could divide it. We're talking about dissolving a partnership. To dissolve a partnership, you want it to remain in the other person's hands totally. This is the key to the sugya. You want it to remain in the other person's hands totally. Good. So can I compel Doc? And I could. So either good, I'll set a price and you'll buy it from me, or good, but listen to this. The way the Beis Yosef learns Pshat and Rashi, guys, is that it's not that I'll set a price and if you don't mean it, you'll set a price. Because or else I can set this exorbitant price. Knowing that I may have to end up, if I set the price, I may have to go ahead and pay it. I'm going to be very, very what? Cheap. Right. Well, not cheap, Mendy. Come on. Not frugal. It's fiscally responsible. Yes, fiscally responsible. So that's the lumdus over here. Good or good? We said if this is speaking about a chatzah medin chalukah, anything that does everything chalukah, but can you go ahead and dissolve the partnership? The dissolving the partnership would mean that not that you divide, guys. Sometimes divide. That's chalukah. We don't talk about chalukah. What's the difference? Chalukah means he would get half the field, I would get half the field. Over here, I'm getting the whole field, he's getting the whole field.
The end result is the same.
No.
The division is done, it's still the same.
No. Let's say we divide the field, I have 50% or whatever the field was, he has 50%. Now, either I'll get 100% or he'll get 100%. That's the difference. Yeah.
What decides?
But he's still selling half the field.
Or if you have to go to 100%.
The other person doesn't want it. If you both agree to split, there's no problem. You're speaking about the guy, he wants to keep the status quo. Doc likes the status quo. He wants to keep the status quo. I don't want the status quo. I want to go to Norway. Right?
With the Carolina,
I think he's in Norway already.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's always, my wife says to me, how is she? I said, I have a Samanex effect. There's always people like falling out. I feel like feel like I'm Ambien. My middle name is Ambien. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway,
Sure.
but okay, says the Gemara. Now it's very, very guys, it's very interesting. From the word traklin to what the Gemara is saying now, the v'chulu, it's not going on any of that at all. It's very important, guys, when you learn Gemara, to look up the mission of the Chavav, because that's what's going on. Amen kadei lezeh mahu. Let's say you don't have enough to divide, but you want to go ahead and end the partnership. You want to dissolve the partnership, right? What's the din? Rabbi Yehuda says, is dina the good or agud? You have the din of good or agud. You go ahead and you could say, again, in this case, I want to divide it, Dak doesn't. I set a price. If Dak meets it, great. If he doesn't, I give it to Dak. Rav Nachman Amal less din of the good or agud. We don't have the din. He disagrees. You don't have the din. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead the rest of the daf to go ahead and see who's right. There's questions either way. Guys, you have it, Rice? You have the difference in this and chaluk, melee, right? You have the difference now, right? Can you dissolve a partnership? Simin kuf ayin aleph in Choshen Mishpat. Kuf ayin aleph this discusses this halacha. Says the Gemara. Amle Rav ol Rav Nachman. L'didach the armit. According to you that you say less dina the good or good. Bichar u poshit shaniach lehem aviem evet u behemet tmeya ketzet oisen. You have a bechor and a poshit whose father leaves them a what, an eved or a behema, and they have to divide ketzet oisen. So bishlema, if you hold good or good, very good, you'll divide it. You'll offer me X amount of money. You'll take everything. But if you don't, how are you going to divide up a behemoth tameya? How are you going to divide up an eved? Now, why did you have to learn Bechar Pasha? You could learn it by stam anybody, right? Why are you picking Bechar Pasha, fellas? And, if you want to tell me the din of good or good, why do you just tell me two sons? So let's see Rashi. Let's see Taisus. Says Rashi, eved behemoth tameya she efshel chalkon. You can't possibly divide them up. So once you can't divide them up, it's either you or me. Now, Kate said Yasu, Lahachi Naki Becharu Pashit, the Tricha Milsa Liya Shutafimba. Because it's a tircha. In other words, the reason you're learning Becharu Pashit is because it's such a tircha to have that relationship. Since the guy has two parts, you have one, obviously you want to end it and compel one to buy the other. In other words, it's just a practical difference, fellas. In other words, we want a situation where you want to dissolve a partnership. A Bechor and a Pashit would be more apt to dissolve a partnership. Why? Because it's a 2-to-1 ratio. It's a pain in the neck to go ahead and figure it out. If it's one guy and one guy, it's pretty easy, right? It's pretty easy. You got one day, I got one day. It's pretty easy to figure it out. So Rashi's learning. You learn Bechoru Pashit. Why? To give it a hezbollah. Why would you want to go ahead and compel to dissolve the relation, the partnership? Good. Taisvis. Becharu Pashit sheniach lehem b'tema. That might not get Becharu Pashit. Below not get Pashit Pashit. In other words, Akasha. Rashi gave his teretz. V'omer Rabbeinu Tam the Pashit Pashit nichalei sheyavoid l'zeh yom echad l'zeh yom echad. Aval Becharu Pashit kashalei im yavoid lebechar beis yomim hari not lebechar yoysa mi pi shnayim. He's going to get more than pi shnayim. You know why? If you have a city that's more than a day away, you can make a good profit because why? You can buy schayra there cheap. Good. So in other words, we're learning Becharu Pashit because it's not a fair division. Any division won't be fair. Because this guy will be able to, the Bechor who has it for 2 days will be able to go ahead and does travel a greater distance to get a better sales, better buy stuff. Okay, so that's two mahalchim. So back in the Gemara. Becharu Pashit, sheniach lemavim eved ubehema, temeya, ketzeraisa. And what's the kasha? What's the kasha, guys? The kasha is not yet. Okay, so the kasha is The kasher is what? How are you gonna? Obviously, it's got to be a good or a good situation. And what's his teretz? Rav Nachman's teretz? It's a division, fellas. Shani yomer oibel is yom echad l'seh shnei yomim. No, the teretz is whatever it is. You're gonna that you'll this one will work one day, this one will work 2 days. But that's the chalukah, fellas. You hear the difference? Good or good? It's got to be dissolve the whole thing. What's the teretz? You don't have to dissolve the whole thing over here. He'll work 2 days. He'll get 2, you'll get 1. Meisive. Okay, this Mishnah we had in Hashaleach. Ayin Dak own an Eved. Dak frees his half. What do we have now? We have a Chatzi Eved on my half, and we know that an Eved, once they're free, automatically become a Yid. So it's a Chatzi Eved, Chatzi Ben Chayrin. So you have this guy is in limbo. Now, why is he in limbo? One day he says Eved, one day he's free to Rebbe Silva. Shama Yomim, he can't them as Rabbi, as Atzma loy to can't them. You metaken is you took care of his master, but himself not. Why? Lisa Shifcha to marry a Shifcha, which he could have done when he was a total Eved, and he yachol, because now he's here for Ben Chayrin. Lisa Bas Chayrin to marry a Jew, a Jewess, and he yachol, because he's half Eved. Yavatel to go ahead and say he can't go ahead and get married. The world was created for reproduction. Shnemar, what would you think? You think you say the pasuk Pru Avu Milu Asar, it's a kavshua, right? Shnemar loy tohu bara l'sheves yitzara. So very famous Taisvis guys over here in a few places. I spoke to Sam Masech the Gittin. Is a woman mitzvah in Pirivya? Say no. How do you know? Boom, Baruch. The Kivshua, right? You make a hekesh, right? People who are in Kivshua are in the ballpark right of Pruvu. Pruvu was the Kivshua. Is a woman mechuyev in the Rabbanan Dikadin of populating the world? Yes. So an Eved is what? Is mechuyev mitzvah skisha. So if it's chatzi every chatzi baschayrin, if you would have bought the pasuk of Pruvu, that would only be chayav us the half Ben Chayrin part. By bringing the pasuk of the Sheves Yitzhar was the word created to be void. The Sheves Yitzhar was created to be populated. If that pasuk is going on both, there's a Mishra Sheves on a Ben Chayrin and also an Isha. It's going. That's the easiest teretz. It's a very famous taisvis. If you have time, Ella, what do you do? Says Beis Shammai, Kaifin es Rabbi Vaysin es Ben Chayrin. You free him. The Kaisiv Shtar Achatzi Damav. The Chazu Beis Hillel Lahiris Kedivrei Beis Shammai. So now, what's the reason you're freeing? Because of the mitzvah of Pirvirivya. Good. Could the Eved go ahead and compel the owner to go ahead and sell him? No. Guys, what's the kasha? The reason you're over here, why are you being freed? Because of the mitzvah of Pirvirivya, correct? Take that away. Could the Eved go ahead and set a price and say the following? Guys, the Eved say to the master, either free me or buy me back. Obviously, you can't do that. So it's a kasha on it's a kasha Rabbi Yehuda. You Rabbi Yehuda say you could say good or good. Over here, clearly you see you can't say good or good because the Eved, the Chatzi Eved, guys, again, the Chatzi Eved cannot compel him to sell him to get, again, total jurisdiction. Yeah, that's the key to the whole sugya. Total jurisdiction. So he couldn't do it. The only reason he's being freed is because the mitzvah pirvavivya. Without the mitzvah pirvavivya, he couldn't go ahead and compel him to do it. So you see what? You don't say good or good. Okay, what are the tzadim over here, guys? Good. Either you set a price and I'll buy myself free, or you'll buy me as what? What will you do? You can't buy me. You can't buy a free man. So good or good works only when you have both sides of the coin. Over here you have good, but you don't have a good. Geschmack. Says the Gemara, Shani Hacha, the a good ikka, you have a good, but good leka. You have a good, I'll buy myself, yeah. But good that you'll buy me, that you don't have. So guys, you hear, a good that I can buy myself, that I do have. But good that you can buy me, you don't have. So therefore, it's not a kasha on Rabbi Yehuda. Tashma. Shnei achin, you have two brothers. echad ani ve'echad asher, right? Once an ani, once an asher. V'niach lemaviem merchatz, and the father leaves them a bathhouse, ubeis habad, or an olive press. Now, also the sachar, if it's made for the purpose of rental, so hischur, you rent it out le'emtza, and that's geschmack. Now, what is it? In order to run a merchatz, you need avodim to work the merchatz. In order to work a beis habad, an olive press, you need olives. The ani has neither. So over here, the ani has nothing to gain by, wow, look what daddy left us, right? The usher, very good. So this will be a situation where the usher should compel the ani to sell him the merchatz and sell him, right? Okay, so that's going to lead up to the good situation. So now, Harry, here's Chalemsa. Asan la'atzmai, if it's made for himself, meaning it's not made for the purpose of rental, then Hari Asha Oimel Ani on the days. Yeah, he doesn't have right. The Asha could tell the Ani, Kach lecha avodim, go ahead, take for yourself avodim to heat up the bathhouse, be your chatsu and wash yourself. The merchatz. Kach lecha zeisim, go ahead and buy zeisim. Uba v'asa beis habad. So it's mashma what that he could go ahead and say, he could go ahead what and force it. So you say this is a kasha on Rav Nachman, because here we're saying l'chayri can force him. So you say good or good. Okay, so hasanami good ikka, good you have, meaning the usher could buy it from you, but good, but the ani can't buy it from him. So in the first case, we didn't have good, but here we don't have what? In the first case, we had good, we didn't have good. Here we have good, we don't have good. Same teretz. Toshma. Ze'aklal. The Mishnah said, Kol she'il yichalek, you'll be able to divide it, ushmaya love, and it still retains its name. If you're able to divide it, and it still retains its name, cholkim, then you're able to go ahead and divide it. Imlav. And if not, Milo is sabidamim. So you go ahead, what? What does Milo sabidamim mean? You go ahead and you buy the other guy out. Says Rashi, Haino good or good, Kashan of Nachman. This is good or good. Now this is a very, very strong kasha, guys. Milo sabidamim, you force the issue, and therefore what? Good or good. Says more Tanaihi. It's machlokes Tanoim. The Tanya, Tul ata shir. So guys, we have a chatzah. In order to buy a chatzah, what do you need? 8 amis by 8 amis, right? You need 4, right, and 4 additional. Let's get the 4 about the pesachim. 8 amis. So I go to Doc. I said, Doc, listen, let's divide it up. Doc says, what? I don't want to. Okay, I said, Doc, listen, you take 4 amis, I'll take 3 amis. I don't want this partnership at all. You take 4 and I'll take 3. Could you do that? Let's see. It's machlokes. Tul ata share. You Doc take the 4 amis. Vani pachas, and I'll take the 3. Shaimim loy. You listen to me. Reb Shimon Gamliel loimer. Ain't shaimim loy. You don't listen. Now, who doesn't make any sense? Reb Shimon Gamliel. Why not? Why not listen? Heki dami. Ilay mekiditani. If you say just literally the words that we just mentioned, my time with Reb Shimon Gamliel. What's the reason from Shimon Gamliel that you would not be able to go ahead and say you get 4 and I get 3? Elolav, it must be chasuri mechsura. It must be missing words. And in this case, we're going to be missing a lot of words, as we're going to see. Ela must be chasuri mechsura v'achi kamar. And here's what you say: Tul ata shir. You take the 4 Doc. Vani pachas, and I'll take 3. Shaimim loy. And good agud nami shamim loy. Those are the words that are missing, guys. And good nami shamaloi. Just like I in a chalukah, I can say you take 4 and I'll take 3. So too, I could say, Doc, you'll take all 7 or I'll take all 7. Right? Good. No, ain't shaimim lo. In other words, fellas, it didn't make any sense. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel is arguing on something that didn't make any sense. He's arguing on. So it must be he's arguing something that we didn't see. What didn't we see? Good or good. Those are the words missing. In other words, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel said, in other words, we had one clause, guys. Clause A. And it didn't make any sense that Shimon Gamliel was going ahead and arguing on clause A. So therefore, we added clause B. What's clause B? Good or good. And therefore, we have machlokes. So we want to say the machlokes between Reb Yehuda and Reb Nachman is a machlokes between the Tanakama and Reb Shimon Gamliel. Like the Tanakama, we say good or good. Like, and he holds like Reb Yehuda. And Reb Shimon Gamliel and Reb Nachman holds like Shimon Gamliel. Like, Lo'olam Kidiktani. It's like you said, guys, it's not missing any words. Now, what compelled us to go ahead, and say it was missing words? Because it didn't make any sense that Shimon Gamliel said, why can't you divide it 4 by 3? With the comment, my time to Shimon Gamliel said, what's the Shimon Gamliel? Mishim the Amalei, Ibidemei, Ibidadami. Doc can say, listen, you want to go ahead and divide up the Demei Leslie Demei. I don't have money. I can't pay you. In other words, Rabbi, you're giving me 3, and you're taking give me 4, and you're giving me 3. Obviously, you want money for what? The other one. I'm not an idiot. Mrs. Stern raised a fool. Guys, look at me. He's getting 4, I'm getting 3, but he's paying for the extra amma, right? Yeah. So now, you know where Shimon says you don't listen? Because Doc can say, I don't have the money to pay for the extra amma. So it's not speaking about good argument at all. It's only clause A, and Rav Shimon Gamliel's arguing clause A. You didn't understand why? I'll tell you why. Because Rav Shimon Gamliel says he doesn't want to pay, he doesn't have the money. Either because he could say, Eid b'demei, lesle demei, or let's say I'm giving it to him as a matana, or he says, v'ev matana le'nichale, d'chsiv v'sayim matana sichya. So either way, in other words, you got clause A, there is no clause B, there's no clause B, there's no good or good, and therefore it's not machlokes v'atanoyim. So therefore, it's shverlich, therefore, on Rav Nachman, because we proved from our Mishnah, it's at least the Brisa. Our Mishnah did not say the word Ma'alos Abedam, it's a Brisa. Our Mishnah said if they don't divide it up, you can compel him by paying him out. So it's a kasha on Rav Nachman, and we wanted to say it's machlokes tanoyim. It's not a machlokes tanoyim. So it's not a machlokes tanoyim where we're holding by. Kashan who? Okay, here's the problem. Rav Nachman, if you remember, said when it comes to monetary matters, he's the man. When it comes to Danny Mamadis, Rav Nachman's the man. Right? He's the man. So now it's coming out now like Rav Nachman. Says the Gemara, okay. Amle Abayil Rabbi Yosef, Hod Rabbi Yosef Tishmuel he. Rabbi Yosef, who said you say the din of good or good is like what his Rabbi Shmuel. Rav had a Talmud, Amar Rabbi Yehuda Rav. Rav was Nifta, and Rabbi Yehuda went to Shmuel, Amar Rabbi Yehuda Shmuel, and Shmuel called him Shinana, sharp one, right? Shinana, sharp one. So we have Rabbi Yehuda, God Amarayim, biggest Talmud of Rav and Shmuel, and now when he said good or good, he's just saying over the Gemara wants to say his Rebbe Shita. He wants to say he's saying over what his Rebbe Shita. So we're going to see that Shmuel hold it in of good or good. That none. The Kisvei Kodesh, our Mishnah said, fellas, that Kisvei Kodesh you can't divide up. It will be Ganai. Remember Rashi? Mm-hmm. You had 24 scrolls all tied up, right? Right? They were tied up in one krach. They were tied up. You said you can't split it because it would be designed to cut it up. So the Kisvei Kodesh, Afa Pisha Shneim Leitzim, even though they both want to, Lo Yechloiku. You won't go ahead and divide it up because of the reason of Ganai. Vama Shmuel, Lo Shanu, fellas, that you don't divide up Ela B'krach Echad. Is because they're in literally one scroll. Aval B'shnei Krichos, but if they're in separate scrolls, Cholkin. If they're in separate scrolls, then Cholkin. Says Rashi, Cholkin. Kesal Kedaitach, Da'afilu Ein Shneim Roitzim, even if they both don't want to, then you would divide. Right. It must be that price is not equal. The less they dina the good or good, how can this go force the guy to take it? Right? I'm not going to give you the extra money. Okay, so the Havamina is that they both don't want. And therefore, says the Gemara, less dina the good or good. And if you're going to tell me that we don't hold, that Shmuel does not hold the din of good or good, my ear b'krach echad. Why do you care what b'krach echad? I feel b'shtei krachim nami, right? Even b'shtei krachim also you should go ahead and you should not be able to divide. In other words, bishlema, if you hold the din of good or good, I could force the issue. Bishlema, if you hold the din of good or good, I'm able to go ahead and force the issue. But if not, 1 second, I have to get this clear. The krach echad, you don't divide, right? You don't divide. So what would you do? No, what would you do? You sell a share. So that's the din of out of good or good, right? Again, if you have one krach, then we're going to say the din of good or good. So I think that let's begin with that point. Lo shanu, that you don't divide, but you say good or good el b'krach echad. Ava b'shnei krichos chalken, but shnei krichos you could divide. These hakadaitach less dina the good or good. If they don't know the good or good, ma yiyu b'krach echad, right? Why do you care when echad you don't divide? I feel b'shnei krachim nami. Even shnei krachim also you shouldn't be able to. You should be able to divide. Why? Because you can't compel the guy to take one side. So again, that's if only one person wants. Again, so I have to get this clear. I don't have it clear. Guys, let me. Okay, let's go one more time. Says the Gemara. We want to say that Shmuel holds the din of Rabbi Hudas was saying of the din of Shmuel is Rabbi. Did not. The Kisvi HaKodesh, Afal Pisha Shneim Noitzim. Even though they both want to divide it, Lo Yech Loiku, they can't divide it because it's a Genai. But what could they do, guys? Force one person to compel one person to buy the whole thing. V'amar Shmuel, Lo Shanu, that they can't divide, that you don't divide, Ela B'krach Echad. U'Mekrach Echad. Aval B'shnei Krichos, but Shnei Krichos, then Cholkin. V'yisal Kedaitach less Dina D'Goya Agud, that in other words, he never holds that in. My area B'krach Echad, that you don't divide. I feel B'shnei Krichos Nami, you won't divide if you don't hold of good or agud. Ela must be holds of good or agud. So Tegem Rav Shalman, you have no raya, but Shneim writes in. Again, you thought of speaking where they both don't want to divide. Speaking, they both do want to divide, and therefore they both want to divide. It's nothing to do with good or agud. Again, good or agud is where it goes totally to one side, and this is going to go to. So the Amar Ameima Hilchasa is Dina the good or agud like Rav Yehuda. Amar Avashi Lameima Hadar Rav Nachman Mai. What about Rav Nachman? After all, Rav Nachman is the big expert rod in Dinei Maminis. So Amalei. So Leishmieli. So said Ameima. Said Ameima. I didn't hear it. Claim Leishmieli. I don't hold like Rav Nachman. How can you say you don't hold like Rav Nachman? Rabba bar Chinana, Rav Dimi bar Chinana, Shavak lu avua tarti amasa. They left them two maidservants. Chada yada afyo b'shulei, one who had a bake cook. The chada yada pilcha v'navla, one who had to go ahead and sew and do spindle work. So each one had in other words, you didn't have a good slave. You had a half a shivcha, but together they'd be a very good shivcha, but you only had about half a shivcha. The asal kamei the rava, v'amalahu less dina the good or good. In other words, what do you want to do? What good or good? What in one slave? So that's again, what's good or good? Either you can't you take one, I take one. There's no good or good, right? So good. I mean, so it says the Gemara, Shani Hasam. Really, you do say good or good. But what's going to have it over there? The Lamarmi boile travayu, Lamari boile travayu. Each one would need both. In other words, I guess if you'd buy both, you would say, yeah, good or good. But again, because each one needs both. But saying to force one to sell one and not the other, if you say you take one and I take another, right? You take one and I take another, then what? Then we say the din of good or ugod. Then you don't say the din of good or ugod because you don't have both. Fred Gemara, but kisvei kodesh shavai mi boilahu. You need them. B'yom Shmuel Leishon al b'krachech al b'shnei krichim cholkin. And we said that obviously must all of good or ugod. Says we'll take Rav Shalman b'shirot shneim ratzum. When we're targeting what they said, we can say both of them. Let's stop here.